It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, the Public Access Podcast, here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN, where you can hear other great shows such as When the Gloves Come Off, The Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast, This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben. And you can listen to these anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can watch them on YouTube. You can watch them on Rumble if it gets too crazy. And the show is sponsored by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Stoner Eats Productions, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, and Sock'emUp.org. And yeah, you guys, today it is Friday. It is hot here, hot and humid. It's sticky. You know how it goes. It's still early, so luckily I don't have anything booked too late in the day. But I'm sure I'll be playing hot up here in my sweat lodge of an office. So, and AC is loud, so it's just going to be, you know how it goes. But yeah, it's not about in this place. It's about what is happening here. And so today I have a special guest, episode 419, almost. So we're going to bring our special guest on right here, right now. We have Deni Van. How you doing?
Hey, Rusty. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. I like your everything going on in there. I like your shirt and the background going on. It's a nice setup there. It's
very cool.
Works pretty well. Yeah.
Comfortable
is very important for what it is now. All right, so is your job right now mostly in person, or is it more online?
A lot of the stuff I do is virtual in 2D. I am a professional linguist. I have been for almost 30 years. And my specialty is nonverbal communication. And so a lot of it can be done online, but I do prefer 3D. Sometimes you miss information non-verbally in 2D, when you just have a virtual camera looking at someone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting with it. And I mean, what is the percentage of, is it 90% of all communications nonverbal? Do you know the number? Somewhere around there?
It depends on what research you're looking at. Some say 70, some say 90. But yes, definitely the body never lies to me, especially when the words or the expression of what's being said, it doesn't match the body. And so bodies are always talking to me. I was a professional licensed massage therapist, and I let that license go to really focus in on, I get contracts through schools, universities, and corporations to do the work that I do.
So is that, I mean, so like, are you there to see if people are lying about stuff, or like I've seen there's this, I forgot what the name of the YouTube channel is, but this, I think it's 2 or 3 people, but they watch all these like old like court cases and stuff of that nature and are able to,
tell if they're lying. Yeah.
Tell if they're lying.
The body language guy.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. So,
and it was in 2001, before the whole world changed in September. Right. It was in the summer, on my 35th birthday, I was given a diagnosis of a fast spreading form of cancer. And at the time, I had a contract with a, what do you call that? The top 100, Fortune 100 corporations. And
Yeah.
I was at the top of my career. And so what I do is I'm a sign language interpreter. So I did a lot of technical interpreting and that kind of stuff at the time. And I was told, you have cancer and we have to go in and inject you with radioactive dye to remove some lymph nodes to determine if you're going to get chemo with your radiation.
Whoa.
And yeah, so let's see, at 35, my kids were 6 and 12. And I had this tiny, tiny little voice inside as the doctor's going on and telling me that we're going to do the surgery when he gets back from vacation. But I was thinking, wait a second, I'm taking my kids to Orlando, to Disney World, because I was going to a conference, and my sister was going to come. I'm going to give them 5-day passes to go to Disney World. And it was 2 weeks after he got back from vacation. And I'm like, well, will I be able to go? Will I be able to take my kids to Disney World? He's like, oh, no, you cancel your vacation. I'm just like, you tell my 6-year-old he's not going to Disney World,
Right.
But during this conversation, there was something ever so tiny and quiet. And it said, that's not for you, as the doctor is explaining radioactive dye being injected, removing lymph nodes, chemo and radiation. That's not for you. So I said, no, no, I'm not doing that. And the doctor, in not so nice terms, said, what are you, stupid?
Right.
Kind of thing. You'll be dead in 2 years. And so it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And this past June, last month, I celebrated 22 years since that. And coming to that space of wondering, am I going to be dead? Let's see, my kids will be 8 and 14. I'll be gone. And I just started getting busy with, all right, I found a surgeon who was willing to just remove the tumor. And he recommended an oncologist that was willing to work with me for alternative methods. And I got busy right away. And everything about me changed on that day. I guess if you were to meet me before, I was corporate, I was at the top of my career. That was pretty much it. And you start to question everything.
Yeah. Once you don't really know what's coming next. And so, I mean, so what was it? Was it, did you go natural, doing, change your diet, change, stuff of that nature? Was it more like that? And
I
I've
did
heard a
all
lot
of
of
that
success.
stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of that stuff. And I found out most of what people recommend, when I started telling and sharing with some people, and then they would say, oh, you got to try this mushroom or colonics, that's the way to go. It's going to save you. They start recommending all kinds of stuff. So I learned right away not to share the information, because it kind of brings up the poor me, look at me kind of energy. And it
Yeah.
just felt really yucky, and I didn't like it. So I stopped sharing. That was the first thing I did.
Huh.
I kept it between me and higher power, God, source, whatever you want to call that unseen part of you. And it was this unseen part of me that said, that's not for you. But I had no idea was, like you said, I started changing all of these things. And one of the things that I realized is between the ages of 4 and 16, I experienced a lot of what they call now trauma. And I learned to suppress that trauma. As it starts to come up, you push it back down. And I realized I kept pushing it back down. It really muddied up everything that was going on with this meat suit, which I call it now. It's just here early, right?
Right.
And it could have been gone a long time ago, if I made the wrong choices. And what a precious gift this is. And I decided to no longer suppress that. I had to, all right, this is coming up. I'm going to deal with this. And I learned integration, because as a linguist, I learned that the subconscious. So we have our conscious awareness, which they say is what, about 10% of what we're aware of what's going on, right?
Right.
We have the unconscious, and I was suppressing a lot of stuff down and not dealing with it in the unconscious. So within my relationships and within my career, it would pop up and interfere and kind of muddy my lens with what's really going on. And so then we have this, some call it the subconscious, some call it the superconscious, so whatever that is, some call it God, whatever that is, that little part that spoke to me, I call it the subconscious. I discovered that this part of us has a linguistic process that is separate from both conscious and unconscious thought. And through all of the books and the study and the courses and the hundreds and hundreds of hours of research that I've done, Carl Jung talks about it. Dr. Upledger talks about it in his book, The Inner Physician, where he says there's a part of us that has the answers to everything that we need, if we can only connect to that. And so, I began to evaluate this processing that goes on separate from my conscious and unconsciousness. And I began to learn that it's not only dealing with what comes up, because we don't want to look at it, right? We don't want to look at the trauma I faced. We don't want to look at the bad choices I made. We just want to push that back down. And so I began to look at it and it's like, all right, well, what do I do with this? I don't want to projectile vomit, which is what we're doing right now, right? We're projectile vomiting on each other. I don't want to projectile vomit. What do I do with this? And the answer kept coming up was integration. And I learned, like Japanese, if something is broken, they put it together back with gold, and it's put back together and it's stronger. When we break an arm where the break was, when you integrate it back together and it fuses, it's stronger. And so I'm like, okay, integration, but how do I integrate? And that's when I learned that we can actually teach this subconscious part of us that has a separate language process from conscious and unconscious thought. We can teach it how to do the integration work, because I learned the mind, the conscious and unconscious, the trauma that's held there, we can't use that to heal the trauma. I learned that when I started going through therapy. I thought, okay, I'll try therapy. And of course, the therapy wants to know everything. So I'm drudging up this stuff. And just from that therapy session, it took me weeks to recover. I was exhausted. I was traumatized again, because the unconscious doesn't know if it's happening again or if you're just telling the story of it.
Right.
And
it's only 38% effective after 600 visits.
Yeah. I mean, what a waste of time and money, right? So I learned to, all right, I'm going to co-create, I'm going to collaborate with this part of me. And as I began to heal is a strong word, integrate, because I integrated the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that each of these little traumas and these things that happen that are suppressed in the unconscious, and it would come up, I would integrate and say, hello, and memories would come back, and you have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that I need to integrate within the wholeness that I am, and teach this intelligence. And I'm not talking mind, brain intelligence, knowledge. I'm talking about this intelligence that is beyond us. Teach this part of us to do the integration work. And I developed this technique, and I teach people now, 22 years later, you need nothing outside yourself. I needed nothing out. I didn't really have to change, though changing my diet for the meat suit was all good.
Right.
Which was great, but you don't need anything outside yourself to heal, because I did it with a very fast-forming cancer, fast-spreading cancer. To this day, I'm banned from donating plasma and blood because of the diagnosis. And so I had to really go inside and create a co-creative relationship with this part of me. And I learned that as I integrated these things within myself, it kind of had like a subconscious effect on the people, which I call mirrors, my mirrors all around me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important too that like I thought it was only like when you have these what they now, like you said, now is called trauma, or things of that nature that are kind of getting held on to. I thought it only was like affected maybe 2 or 3 generations down the line from you, but I found out that it gets into your RNA and is like up to like 25 to 30 generations that it affects after you from this thing you're holding on to. So I mean, it's not, this is, can change your whole bloodline for thousands of years, just from one trauma that doesn't get resolved. And then also the fact that if you're not, integrating it, like you were saying, it's gonna come up on some time when and it's always when you're not expecting it. And then you get, another term they use now, triggered, and it's just gonna happen again. And it's gonna be a lot worse. And you're always gonna be on edge, acting on adrenaline. And when you're acting on adrenaline all the time, you're not thinking clearly. And so it's really easy to push things down, but eventually it's going to come back up. And so
That's key right there. And you mentioned something really important, that this generational inheritance injuries or traumas that we receive from our past. In working with people, I've had clients who had clear memories of being in the womb and clear memories of where the trauma originated from great, 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 great grandmother's side, that kind of thing, depending on which side they feel it on. It's fascinating stuff. And only recently, science is starting to say, maybe there's something to that. Maybe we should look at that. And, in working with a lot of people today, I am not a therapist. I help people discover their own processes of integrating. And being someone who went to therapy and stuff like that, how it re-triggers these traumas and how it affects the body. In working with people, they'll tell me, I'm on a waiting list and it's like possibly 4 months before I can see a therapist. And so we have 1, maybe 2 sessions, and they're canceling their therapy appointments.
Yep.
This is how profound this integration work is. You need nothing. If you do decide you need medications, this is a personal choice. This is something you decide within your own mind, body, consciousness, experience. But this generational stuff that we are experiencing now, with calling each other names and labels and theories and all of this pronouns, as a linguist, pronouns are something I use to describe you. But if you're dictating what pronouns I use, that's a suppression of speech. And so what I'm witnessing is people are not even communicating with each other anymore for fear of using the wrong language. And so this is going to bring up all kinds of injuries, traumas, triggers, not only from this lifetime, but it's almost like all time periods are coming to a clash and a head. And you brought up some really good points about science, just discovering this.
Yeah. And I mean, because yeah, it's easy to say, don't mislabel me, but like, you can't go through, again, as you're going to be going through life always on edge, waiting for someone to do it to you, when, like, if you want to be called whatever, it's fine, but find out what the reason is that's making you triggered. If that's what's going to happen every time someone, like, if someone messes up, that's fine, but it's how the person's reacting. If they're reacting because of a certain way, I mean, it's not on the person that says it, it's on whoever is, everyone's responsible for their own emotions and their own stuff. You can only get triggered or offended because you're getting
Exactly. And
offended.
emotions are subjective. And so, if I call you the wrong pronoun and your emotions get triggered, that's subjective. So in the work I do is we make the subjective objective by giving it a number. Like hospitals use the pain scale. What is your pain?
Right.
0, no pain. 10, oh my God, give me the pain meds, give me the epidural, give me what you got, put me out.
Yeah.
So 10 is a very painful space to be. And so we're kind of walking on eggshells right now over everybody's feelings, and feelings are subjective. And when you force your feelings on someone else, you're subjectifying someone else.
Right.
And when we make it objective, okay, I'm just triggered. It's an 8. This trigger is an 8. You just made the subjective objective, because now I know what an 8 feels like. You're triggered and it hurts, right?
Right.
So now I know what that is, but you're not subjectifying me to force me to use certain terms and words and walk on eggshells and be careful around you. And making it objective is the second part of the 4-step process that I use. First, become aware of it. Okay, I'm triggered. Second, give it a number to make the subjective objective. Third, we train, once your subconscious knows how to do the integration work,
Yeah.
you're ready to go. You need nothing outside yourself. And then the fourth part is to release it from the nervous system. And I love dogs. I've studied the biology and structure and muscles of dogs. And what dogs do when they're injured or something happens, what do? They shake it off, right? It's a resetting of the nervous system. It's neurokinesiology. So you're releasing that extra energy that is kind of going through the nerves, kind of like an electrical surge, right? We get injured, our nervous system is surging.
Is that the vagus?
We can activate the vagus nerve for sure.
Okay, but is that what the dogs are doing? Is that what it's from, or is it from just different nerves?
It's been so smoky here in Chicago from the Canada fires. Sorry. It is. Yeah. It could be activating the vagus nerve, because once they release that energetic surge from the body, they're calmer. We can do the same thing. I can teach people a simple kinesiology exercise, rubbing your hands together. So you're building positive ions and you're thinking about the situation. It's an 8. I don't want it in my body anymore. I want to integrate all of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You can feel that if I were to touch you, you might get a shock, right? And then you clap your hands together, and this breaks up everything throughout the whole nervous system. And you check in and try and connect to that 8 again. It's not there. It might move to a 5. An 8 to a 5 is huge.
Big jump.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
Instantly. There, 2-3 minutes.
And you're able to think more clearly. And so I work with people, I tell them, start integrating your triggers by watching what other people do. Look at your mirrors. What are your mirrors doing, right? Ooh, I don't like that situation. It's a 7. I'm going to work on that, what I'm triggered in my 3D reality.
Right.
Integrate all of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of that trigger, but allow the subconscious to reprogram, release, and let go of what no longer serves. The mind doesn't know what no longer serves. The unconscious doesn't know what no longer serves. But this subconscious part sees both. It sees both, and it sees it in perfect order and perfect sequence, regardless of the time and space we're in currently.
So then why do you think this is getting suppressed so much? And like, why aren't they wanting people in, this kind of work to be done in the school, or in going to the corporations, doing seminars. I mean, I haven't been in the corporate life for a while, and I mean, I consume the seminars on everything now. And why not something like this? Why is something? Because I don't know, I feel some people, once they don't have that, back to the, don't, I have cancer, don't, feel bad for me. Once they don't have that, who are they? And I think that there's a number of cases of that, of once they don't have, I'm triggered by this. Who am I? I need to have something because I need that attention for myself, to feel better about myself, not knowing that there's another way to do it. And because it's the simple, easy gratification with no work, whereas a little bit of work can change it, and then you are happy from within.
That's an excellent question. If we look at the medical arena and we look at how people who are diagnosed with diabetes, the medical arena doesn't teach that person how their body works and what works best for this temporary machine. Instead, they medicate them, which creates more problems. Then you have a patient. They're actually not calling them patients anymore. I don't know if you notice, hospitals and doctors are calling them customers. So they want customers for life, and ignorance is bliss for them. So what I learned, I had to find a doctor who was willing to work with me. And I was actually one of Dr. Mercola's patients back then. I don't think he sees patients anymore, but at the time, he taught me so much about how this body works and what this body needs for a path of healing and recovery, instead of a path of repeating the cycle over and over again until I die. Which the second seed, this doctor who told me I'd be dead in 2 years, he planted another seed. He said, most patients with your cancer diagnosis usually get it again in 5 years. So there were 2 seeds. One, I'm going to be dead in 2 years. The other, if I survive, I'm going to get it again in 5 years. So these were seeds I literally had to pull out, or rather integrate. Okay, if I get it again in 5 years, then I get it again in 5 years. I had to be okay with dying in order to start really integrating what was going on within my unconscious. But what they do, excellent question. They don't want us to heal. They don't want us to have this knowledge, because I don't go back to the oncologist. I haven't gone back to the oncologist since my 5-year mark. And she said she didn't want to see me anymore. And I'm like, gladly. So yeah, they don't want it. There's money in it.
And I think that too, with and like you said, someone sees you 1 or 2 times, tell them, guess what? You never have to see me again. And, I say that too. After I work with someone, I tell them, look, I don't want to see you ever again. You don't have to see me ever again. Tell your friends when you're feeling good, but you don't have to see me anymore. Like, I don't need you as a repeat customer. I'm not doing this to, trick you into spending more money with me. I'd rather you have the knowledge to feel better than keep you as a customer for life and feeding you bullshit forever. And then I have to live with that. I don't want that.
Exactly. And when I work with people, I don't have them tell me the story, because repeating the story kind of makes it really deep in our nervous system, and our nervous system thinks it's happening again. So we're getting re-triggered every time we retell the story. And it's important to integrate it rather than make the story about who we are. And that's what these doctors and therapists do, because in the United States, here, it's for-profit medicine. They're about profiting off of your injuries. And this is criminal, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, we have to pay for insurance as well as then have to pay for anything. I mean, yeah, we pay for insurance, but then you have to pay for, copay, you have to pay for the medications, you have to pay for the visits. It's never ending. And, you're not going to go to a doctor most likely, and they say, don't come back. It's what we'll see you again. We'll check you up on you in a couple of weeks or something like that. And it's okay, well, here goes this cycle. And yeah, I mean, I was doing some stuff a few years ago where I was, I had some few different things going on with me, and I was part of a very well-known network of good medical place, a very, whatever, where everyone kind of works together to facilitate you. And boy, did they bring me back all the time and giving me all kinds of different, medications and different everything. And by that time, I was just like, I had so much stuff. And then I just I found something that wasn't that, and just got rid of all of it. And I didn't need it. And I was totally fine and feel a lot better. I'm not going there. There is not the rusty diamond wing of the clinic anymore. So it's nice not having to deal with that kind of stuff. It's not worth it. And people they're happy to take you and tell you there's stuff wrong with you. And if you believe it, then again, yeah, there's something that's in, like you said, it's one of those seeds that's planted in you. It's like, well, doctor said it,
Therefore, it must be true.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
And
I have had, he just passed this past May, but a younger brother. I was about 10 years older than him. He was born with a heart defect. And obviously he needed medications to keep his heart, so there was a place for it. But the doctors told my mom he wouldn't live past 1 year old. And then he had surgeries, brand new surgeries. He was, experimented on pretty much. And then the doctors tell him, well, he won't live past 6 years old. And then at 10 years old, he won't live past this age. And finally, my mom said, stop playing God, obviously he's still here. Well, he lived till almost 46, and he was the oldest person, according to their books, that lived that long with his heart condition. He was on a waiting list for a transplant, and then he was taken off the waiting list. Then he was put back on the waiting list. Then he was taken off the waiting list. And so there's a place for those things. But looking back and observing and witnessing what my brother went through, because I'd visit him in the hospital, they'd let me in because the nurses would go, "Oh, you look 16, you can go in." And witnessing what he went through, life and death every single day, I'm wondering if it prepared me for my, diagnosis of you'll be dead in two years if you don't do this, this, and this. And I forgot where I was going, but how there is a place. That's where I was going. There is a
Okay.
place for medicine, but you get to decide what's right for you. I had to decide and be 100% okay with my decision that if I'm going to die in 2 years, then I'm going to be dead in 2 years. So I'm going to get everything in order. And boy, I got busy. I got so busy. 2 years flew by and I'm like, whoa, the oncologist says it's 5 years already. It's like, wow, I'm still here, right? Pinch me, pinch me.
Yeah. So,
for
I
sure.
mean, what'd you do then when, what was the point when you were able to accept that I'm going to be dead? And I say this, because it's, once you're like, well, what can be worse? And once you shit your pants, you can't shit your pants anymore. Like whatever, you're just gonna go, and that's what's gonna happen now. Then you're kind of free for whatever and able to do what you want. And so what was the point when you were kind of figured out, okay, well, I've accepted this, this is what's happening, and then what can I do now?
I would say, I think the point when I started really digging deep, not really digging, but allowing stuff to come up. And one of the things I discovered was plant medicines, and getting to the point of going inside and doing the journey work and being okay with what's happening in the 5 sensory realm, because the 5 sensory realm wasn't everything of who I was. And I was okay with disconnecting from the 5 sensory realm, and I knew I would be okay. There was this knowing, not in the human brain, mind, conditioned, programmed part of me, because that part will be, wait a second, that's scary. I'm afraid to die. What if it hurts? So the mind was constantly going, and I think realizing my mind was not who I was, who I really am. And sometimes, maybe most of the time, the mind is not my friend. And I realized when I put that separation between this larger unseen part with the mind and body, the mind and body has needs, but the mind is highly programmed. And I think that's when I realized there's more here, that I'm okay with losing this part of me. And once I was okay with dying, I started living. I mean, I had hundreds of hours of training in cranial sacral therapy through the Upledger Institute, and learning Reiki, obviously, one of the first things I learned, learning dowsing and all of these things that are considered woo-woo, but now science is taking a look at, it's like, maybe there's something to this. So for sure.
So to go back one, so when you said the plant medicine, do you like something kind of that way?
Yeah, I
And
opened myself up and asked, what is the next step? And literally within days, I was invited to an ayahuasca ceremony. There was a shaman coming to the area, and there was a group of people who invited a select few. And I was like, okay, well, I've never heard of it. What is it? And she told me, and I said, let me get back to you. I'm going to do some research. And realizing that I would be breaking all kinds of laws and doing this, there was so much more positive than negative to the experience. And I prepared myself as much as I possibly could for the event. And over the course of 10 plus years, maybe longer, it was probably around 2019, I was done. I had participated in 22 ayahuasca ceremonies. And because this human has a very hard head and, thinks she knows everything, there was some walls that needed to be punched through for at least my experience. Now, not everybody has to even go through an ayahuasca experience to come to this place of, all right, I'm okay with dying. But it was these experiences that really shattered these layers. And I didn't have a lot of time. So I needed medicine that was going to work quickly. So instead of so many rounds of chemotherapy and radiation, I did so many rounds of ayahuasca plant medicine.
Yeah.
And this to me was my medicine, my treatment. And just go inside and ask, what is the next step? You might not know it. Somebody will come into your experience and invite you to something, that might be illegal, who knows? But science, again, is opening up to the healing possibilities of trauma and injury.
Yeah, so I talked with one of my co-hosts about this recently, and I brought up the thing of a quote unquote bad trip, but I had not experienced that, but at the same time I was like, well, just don't go into that, don't go and try to do anything if you're going to possibly have a bad trip. But he said, no, that's wrong. That's the time when your brain and your body and everything is at the best place to be able to experience that and work through it, because that's what you need to do. And it's something that's just getting, again, pushed down and suppressed deep within you. And it's something, such as dying, that where just like, oh gosh, I don't want it. This is like, oh, this is something that's right in your face, and let's deal with this now. Let's take care of this, and then able to just let go and that
Of
new
course,
experience.
the idea of a bad trip is just that, an idea, and it's 100% mind. So you could say I had a bad trip on my 7th ayahuasca session ceremony. I thought I had died, and I was really, really deep down, and I saw death coming at me the way we're trained to see death, like bones and ugly, and just you want to avoid it at all cost.
Yeah.
So I saw death coming at me. And in that moment, I felt the fear coming up. Oh my gosh, this is a bad trip. Am I dead? Did I really die? What's going on? So I felt all this fear coming up, and I recognized it right away. And I realized, hold off all this fear, hold off mind. I want to see where this is going to go. What do I have to lose? If I'm dead, I'm dead. If I'm not, I'm going to learn something, right?
Right.
Looking back, I'm so glad I did, because as I stayed with the imagery of death and the fear that it had, suddenly she became so beautiful, and my body changed. Everything about it changed. And I realized I wasn't dead because I had to pee. I'm like, oh, yay, I'm not dead. So the body's going to let you know when to come back. And looking back, I could have made it a bad experience. But if I stayed and realized, oh, that's just mind, I am not my mind, and put the mind down here and say, all right, where is this imagery? Where is Aya taking me? And this was my 7th ceremony, and I call it my death experience, because my body was so far deep. It could have, gone someplace else. But my consciousness was so expanded that when I stayed with what the mind thought was something, It was not. It was beauty. It was all that is. And that was my bad experience, if you will. So there are
And
no bad experiences.
yeah, I think that's something that needs to be rephrased now, and looked at differently. And yeah, because I mean, there's something so obvious and something that just it really just light bulbs went off in my head, and oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's something. And I mean, um, same thing when I'm working with a client who has, um, some sort of PTSD, and I, tell them, like, I'll do a desensitization technique, and like, you got it one more time, but you're going to be in the absolute best scenario to experience it. And it's not going to come up sometime, and you're going to get triggered, and you're going to always be on edge. You're going to do it right here. And then every time after that, it's going to be less and less impactful when it happens. They'll bring that a 10 down to a 5, or 8 down to a 5, 8 down to a 2, and then just watch it just go. And yeah, I mean, I think the fact when something comes up to us, difference between hiding from it and then facing it head on is life or death in a way.
Yes. And face death. Don't run from it. When you face death, you start to live.
Yeah.
You're afraid of death. You're afraid of living. You say no to opportunity. Oh, no, I can't do that. What if I die?
Right. And what if you don't?
But
if you
for me,
don't die?
I won't jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't got there yet either. I don't know if I will. I'm okay with that. There's
I'll do
plenty
roller
other,
coasters.
yeah,
roller
yeah,
coasters.
that sounds good. Yeah, plenty other dumb stuff I've done, but yeah, jumping out of a plane, I'm okay with that. I can prove that I'm, not afraid of too many things, but if I don't jump out of an airplane, who am I really proving that to? So, but so Deni, where can people find you, find your work, contact you to work with you, learn about you? Where can they do that?
Absolutely. Heartfeltawakening.com, or pretty much everywhere on social media, Heartfelt Awakening.
Excellent. Okay. Well, hey, Deni, it was great talking with you and getting to know you, and getting everyone to be able to learn and experience what we've all experienced, and what you've experienced, what I've experienced, and we all experienced the whole. So
It
thank
was
you
a
so
joy.
much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're very welcome, and have a good rest of your day. All right. Deni Van, there we go. You guys give her a look over. I was going to say once over, but maybe twice over, thrice over, and just go for it. Like, yeah, you got to face shit. It's going to be a lot more scary if you don't face shit. So like you said, live or die. Um, you know what? Think about the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. Live or die, and what's he do? He fucking honks his nose. What's that say? What's that mean? I don't know. But you guys, thank you for listening here on the Quantum Global Broadcast Network, QGBN, the podcast, the Public Access Podcast with me, Rusty Diamond. Check out other great shows on here, such as When the Gloves Come Off, Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast. This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben. And the show is brought to you by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Stone Reach Productions, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, and Sock'emUp.org. You guys like, share, subscribe, pass it along. This is great. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And that is the show. Man, boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest! Ernest! Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?